decided that this video was going to be about like the scariest ghost stories from Reddit, because I just went down a rabbit hole and I just ended up on ghost stories from Reddit. So we're just going to jump right into that. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. You know the deal. So the first one is titled "It Wasn't a Little Girl." So we're going to jump right into this. It says, I was camping with my husband and his family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. And if you don't know, New Mexico, there's literally like just desert, just dirt basically. Like there's not even any Joshua trees, nothing. It's literally just flat land, just dirt. I know cuz I went through the border, but anyway, it says there were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people in the next campsite. It was nighttime and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, and telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we all saw a very tall, pure white figure standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field, making the noises. We all agreed this thing looked maybe 6 feet tall, skinny, and white as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started backing off as we got closer, and it disappeared into the trees. All night we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep. Yeah, that's a no for me. I would just cancel the whole thing. I would just go home that same day at that exact time. Like, that's crazy. Okay, next story. Before I talk too much. This one says The Walking Dead. Okay. So it says, I'm a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, which means that he couldn't talk, but there was no medical reasons as to why. He had spoken earlier in his life and in fact seemed quite normal back then. With the exception of being close to 7 feet tall, he'd been raised in the deep south and joined the military when he was 19. But one night he vanished. He was declared AWOL. I don't know what that means. And eventually he was declared missing and dead. Oh, geez, why would they declare him missing and dead just because he was gone? That was weird. So 10 years later, a 7-foot tall man walked into a VA hospital emergency room in my part of the Midwest and said to the receptionist, my name is Marion Dushini, not the real name, and I've been dead for 10 years. Those were the last words he ever spoke. He was covered with dust and he was wearing the same clothes he'd been reported to be wearing the night he vanished. His social security number had not been used and he had no identification on his person. However, they were able to identify him, I guess via the fingerprints. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man and that whomever was claiming to be him simply could not be. They demanded not to be contacted again. Marion paced all day, every day, moving his mouth that looked like talking or muttering, but no sound came out. He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open, as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to listen, periodically throwing his head back in that laughter-mimicking way of his. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him neither positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Marion would just grin, and unless told to stay put, he'd get up and start pacing again. On my last day at that job, the last thing I saw was Marion, pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh. Later, I wondered if all along I've been dealing with a ghost. All these years later, I still don't know. Okay, I'm gonna read one more. Okay, I'm gonna read The Unrest Stop. It says, I was driving across country with my mom and sister when I was 16, and my sister was 20. It was late, but we were well rested. We were well rested, still, and alert. We were driving along an interstate and needed gas and a bathroom break, so we stopped at the only rest stop in 200 miles. There was a van full of teenagers on a road trip at the gas station, as well as a small gray car parked at the pump in front of us, with two young men standing still outside of it. When we got there, everything felt wrong. We'd been on the road for 2 days and many rest stops at night and had never been afraid until then. My mom and sister went inside and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say that they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work and that they left in a hurry. I was watching the car in front of us, and the two men had not moved at all, not an inch. They weren't talking, they weren't on phones, they were just standing there, still as stone. My sister and mom came running back out to the car, and when they got in, the two men slowly turned to look at us while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies, and I swear to... She said, I swear to fucking shit. We all saw the same thing. They had eyes dark as pitch and empty. Truly empty, not black, not reflecting any light at all, just the void. We sped out of there and didn't stop until we were in the next city. The worst thing about the entire experience, we couldn't find the place on any map. We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look, and we couldn't find it on Google Maps or any paper map we had. We even asked locals about the creepy gas station out on that stretch of road and got only confused looks. We've traveled on that interstate since, and there is no rest stop. Oh no, ma'am. That's too much for me. I don't know why, but they inserted a tweet right here and it said, when my husband thought I look up things on Reddit when in reality I read exclusively ghost stories. Not just a tweet, but a mood. That is too funny. Okay, I'm gonna read one more because these are kind of interesting. It says, it came for us in the graveyard. We were driving my friend's really old beat up I don't know what that word is, through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond. There was someone sitting on a rock on the other side of the pond. That's where you stop right there. And then it says, the figure was all black and we couldn't make out any features other than the fact it looked like a man who was wearing some old style top hat. That's what they always look like, I swear. And then it says, we stupidly waved and shouted out hi. I'm sorry, there's gotta be a specific type of people. Y'all already know what type of people these people are. But anyway, we stupidly waved and shouted out hi. He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting still on the rock. All of a sudden, he jumped to his feet, started running to us on the water, and then vanished in thin water about halfway on the pond. My friends and I screamed and ran back to the car. The car wouldn't start, and we heard something banging on the back of the car. Oh no, ma'am. And it says it wasn't a constant bang, but every few seconds or so we'd hear it. Nobody was outside from what we could see in the dark, but something was making a noise on the car. I opened my phone and started dialing my mom to come give us a boost. Child, I would have been on the other side of the globe already. But I had no service. None of us had any cell service. The next 30 minutes were spent trying to get her car started. No banging was heard afterwards, but we felt this heavy pressure around us. Gotta go to church. Finally, the car started and she hit the pedal to the metal. Not the pedal to the metal. She hit the pedal to the metal. We sped out of the graveyard so fast, immediately crossing the gates. All of our phones regained cell service. One thing I know for certain is that someone or something was out there, and it was not an animal or human. Baby, I think the moral of that story is not to mess around in graveyards. I mean, I don't know how many people have to go through stuff in graveyards for y'all to understand not to go and disturb people's peace. Anyway, those were some Reddit stories. I'm thinking of doing like a playlist of Reddit stories, to be honest, instead of the urban legends, because they're just way more interesting. Like, I wonder if some of these were actually true, aside from, like, you know, the ones that obviously seem fake. But I wonder if, like, some of those stories were based off of like real experiences. That's interesting. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week if possible. Like I mentioned, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and turn my notifications on. I try and post every single Wednesday. And yeah, I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Mwah.